Yeah, good day, everyone. And then I welcome everyone to this today's training. Like you all know, the training is to assist some of our colleagues who are out there in Nigeria looking for opportunities to study abroad. So, and part of why we are doing this is to equip you guys with the necessary skills and uh, information you need while applying to some of these schools abroad, because without some of these things you can't possibly get it. When most people see us post our pictures online, probably uh, when we are in some of these foreign countries, you will think that it's just something we just wake up and we got here. No, we passed through a lot of processes. We actually passed through processes, so it wasn't easy for us to be here. So because of that, we always try to assist you guys. So that, and we'll tell you guys, some of us, we didn't even learn it. We learned it from people like this. I myself, I know a lot of people that I was following that time online. I was able to learn a lot. So this program is meant to equip you guys, not to, I don't know, not to ask. We don't need anything from you guys. All we need to is just to build a kind of community that can help in future to build their home countries. You see, Radio Africa Scholars is actually meant to build a community of scholars that will, within the next couple of years, you know, become leaders in most of African countries and probably change the narrative, the political narratives of our people down there. So that's why we have this, our platform. That's one of the reasons we have this, our platform. So I welcome you guys to this program, and I hope that this program will impact a lot of people. So far, we'll be getting testimonies, and then we hope to continue. Today's program, we're going to talk about research, how to write research proposals. If you're applying for masters and PhD, you know, most of the universities in the United States do not require research proposal for you to apply. But I know that most of universities in UK and other European countries, you must present a research proposal. So you need to know what to write, how to write a research proposal that will give you, because whatever you are writing, thousands of people out there are writing their own too. So if you don't write something that will make you stand out, you will not be selected. And all these positions are very few. Like if you want to NIU now, for instance, my department, we are just only two Africans in one department. And I'm sure it's not just two of us that applied. I know that a lot of people applied. So, but two of us, we are selected from Africa. So if that is how, if it is this competitive, you need to learn what to do to stand out. So today's program will be welcome. We'll have a speaker who is a renowned um, person in academics. He's my very good friend and a brother to me. So he's Obinna Franklin. He's a PhD student in economics and statistics at Northern Illinois University. He works as a graduate teaching assistant in the Department of Economics, conducting recitations, holding office hours, and also grading assignments. In addition, he has a master's degree in economics from Eastern Illinois University here in the United States. And he also holds a bachelor's degree, and not just a bachelor's degree, but a first-class bachelor's degree in economics from University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria, that we popularly call Uniport. And then his career goal is to work as an economist in the industry. So Obi's research interest is applied econometrics. And then His research uses appropriate econometric and statistical methods to answer economic and business questions. Obinna has also written a lot of publications. He published 4 single-authored peer-reviewed economics research papers with over 25 citations. His current research explores how institutions and regulations affect small businesses in Nigeria. Obi's interest includes, but not limited to, economic research, data analysis, international development, technology and innovation, volunteering, and mentorship. Obi is also someone who loves football so much. So, and he's a Real Madrid fan. So, Real Madrid people, your man is here. And then he also does outdoor activities, hanging out with friends and families, sightseeing, and also he plays video games a lot. He likes listening to music and watching TV series and so many other things. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome a speaker and a public mentor in the person of Obinna Franklin Ezibekwe. Obi, you are welcome. You now have the floor. Let me stop sharing.
Okay. So let me share my screen. So can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it from here.
Okay,
And I
okay.
believe other people can see it.
Very good. Okay. Thank you so much, Stanley. And thank you guys for coming to my presentation. So as Stanley said, my name is Obinna Franklin Ezibekwe, and I am a graduate student at NIU studying economics and then minoring in statistics. So when Stanley asked me to talk about this topic, about writing a research proposal, I thought it came at a very good time because I started writing my doctoral dissertation this January, and I submitted a research proposal for that. So my plan today is to kind of like to talk with you guys about preparing your research proposal, not just for admissions, but also for your thesis or for your dissertation, as the case may be. So I hope that by the end of this presentation, you guys will kind of like derive some kind of value from this, okay? Those of you who already have a proposal on ground, you can go back and make some improvements. And those of you who plan to start their own sometime in the future, you will at least have a starting knowledge that you can work with, okay? So like I said, this is not going to just be for your admission application, but it's also going to help you for your thesis. Because when you finally start your graduate school, you are going to most likely submit a proposal, okay? So without further ado, I want to begin my presentation. So if you guys have any questions, there will be a time at the end of this for you to ask your questions. So this is the outline of my presentation. So the first section is going to be a discussion of the meaning and the importance of a research proposal, okay, for your thesis, which could be master's thesis or doctorate thesis, and also for graduate admissions for master's and PhD. And as Stanley said earlier, a research proposal is important, especially for those who are applying to schools in Europe. It is not widely asked about during the application stage for US admissions. But if you start your program in the US, you at a point need to submit a research proposal. Okay, so I'm going to discuss the meaning and the importance of this document. And then the second section is going to highlight the components. Okay, what are the parts that make up a good or a great research proposal? Then the third section is going to be about how to incorporate your research interest in a statement of purpose. So I believe most of you are going to relate with this third section because a statement of purpose is something that you have to submit for virtually every graduate admission application. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to incorporate your research interest and show that your interest aligns with that of the department you're applying to. Then the last section is going to be questions and answers. Okay, even though this discussion is going to be about research proposal, I encourage you guys to ask me any question you may have about the entire admission process. Okay, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. So let us start. So first, what does a research proposal mean? I believe most of you here must have heard the term research proposal, but what does it actually mean? So a research proposal is basically a document that summarizes your plan for your intended research project. So from this definition, something should come to your mind about what a research proposal is all about. So what you should have in mind about this document is that it is not cast in stone. It is something that would end up changing when you start writing your research project. For example, your objective during your research project may be to investigate A and B. But when you start your research project itself, you may end up realizing that this particular thing may be more interested than your initial thought. Okay, and you're actually free to change a little things, like some few things about your research project. Okay, when you start working on it. So everything in your proposal must not end up being on the final project that you produce. Okay, so it is basically just a plan, okay, a course of action you plan to take to achieve a particular project. But at the end of the project, you may see that where you started, okay, and where you planned to end may not actually turn out that way. And that is actually okay. But generally, don't deviate so much, okay, from your research proposal because so many things depends on it. So in this presentation, I want to talk about three important reasons for writing a research proposal. So the first point is that it gives you the opportunity for you to show that your research interest aligns with that of the faculty members in a program that you are planning to apply to. So why is this important? Graduate school is basically about research. So if you want to apply to any department, you must be able to identify some faculty members who will be your advisors when you start that program. For example, let's say that you plan to research about, let's say, nuclear physics, and you apply to a school that does not have any professor who does research in nuclear physics. What it tells the department is that you are not a good fit, okay? Because there is no person on ground in the department to take you on as an advisee when it comes to writing your thesis. So this document actually gives you the chance to discuss your research, okay? And then prove that other faculty members in your department that you're planning to apply to share the same interest as you. And when you do this, this actually increases your chances of getting admission and also getting funding from that program. So the second reason for writing a proposal for your research is that it gives you the opportunity to present the significance of your research to organizations that may want to fund your research. Okay, so I know many students who are in different programs, masters and PhD, who apply for grants from institutions who may be interested in the results of their research. So through your research proposal, you can explain to these organizations how your results from your research can help them to probably increase their sales or make profits, okay? And by so doing, your research proposal helps to open funding opportunities to you to do your project when the time comes. And this funding is, I believe, more important to people who do lab work because they need to get some equipment or maybe chemicals for their experiments. So this is something that a research proposal helps you to achieve. So the last point I want to mention today is that, which I think is actually probably the most important, is that it allows you to kind of like think about your research in a more holistic way. Kind of like allows you to think about your research from the first day. You think about the beginning to the end of the research from the first day. Okay, and by so doing, you are able to identify potential challenges and you start planning on how to address the challenges from the first day. Okay, think about it. For example, during your research proposal, you kind of like write about your data, which is an important challenge in empirical research. So because of your proposal, you are able to identify data collection, maybe if it is primary data that you want to collect as a challenge. So you can start at that very first point to think about how do I navigate this process when I get to it. Okay, start thinking about who are my sample, how do I, maybe do I want to collect a question and do I want to interview them or do I want to send out questionnaires to them? So this is what a proposal helps you to do. It kind of helps you to identify the challenges ahead of time. So you can have enough time, okay, to plan on how to address the challenges. So finally, a great research proposal must have some important components, which I'm going to present to you guys in the following sections. So first, you have to develop a befitting title for your proposal. Okay. And then I said in the first point here that a good title must be brief. So remember that your title is not a sentence. So it must not be too long that when someone reads the first word, by the time they get to the last word of the title, they forgot the first word. I mean, that's too long. Okay, so it must be brief and very catchy. Okay, so it is not a sentence. Okay, the second point is that it must be unique, just to set it apart from what people have done in the past. Okay, don't choose a title that someone has used in the past because that is going to make it difficult for people to find your work. And then it must be meaningful too. And what I mean by meaningful is that it has to capture what you are doing in the research. For example, if your aim in the research is to understand how education affects wage, then your title should actually tell us this paper is doing this, not giving us a different idea or not explaining this idea properly. So you have to be careful. A title is actually something that is very important and can kind of like either present your research in a bad way or in a good way. Okay, so be careful of that. Also, I said here that your title can be in the form of a question. I like it a lot. Like I talked about my essay, which I started writing in January. My title is in a question form. Okay, but I want to present this example here by two economists, Joshua Angrist and Alan Kruger. So their title is, Does Compulsory School Attendance Affect Schooling and Earnings? Okay, so this question is actually the main question they addressed in their research paper. And that question ended up forming their topic. And you can see this topic is, this title is very brief and also very meaningful because it tells us what has been done in the paper. Then third, you can highlight the method you used. But for me, personally, I think if you want to highlight your method, then that method has to be innovative. It has to be something that people have not used so much in the past. It has to be probably a new method, or maybe something you developed on your own. It has to be very catchy. Don't introduce a method if it is common, like classical regression analysis. Nobody wants to see that kind of thing on your title because we all know what it is. It is not special anymore. Okay, then I said avoid abbreviations. Okay, unless you have defined it in the title or it is well known. Now, what's an example of a well-known abbreviation? Let's say USA. Everybody knows USA is America. So you can use that in your title. That's okay. Or if you use UN, which is United Nations, everybody knows that. Okay. But if you use ambiguous abbreviations, let's say something like CPI. Okay, so in economics, CPI can mean so many things. Let's say that the title you choose for your work is measuring CPI in Nigeria. This is a topic, measuring CPI in Nigeria. Now, CPI could mean consumer price index, which we use to measure inflation. It could also mean corruption perception index, which we use to measure corruption levels across countries. Okay, so you see that this CPI in the title is kind of ambiguous and we don't know what you're talking about. So you have to try to define it. You can say measuring consumer price index, then in brackets, CPI. Okay, this makes it easier to understand. Then the last thing I said here is don't use a full stop. So this one is a no-brainer. Your title is not a sentence, so you don't have to put a full stop after it, right? Then I also said here that subtitles can play an important role. So the example I have here is a paper I published in, I believe, 2021. The title of the paper is Monetary Policy and Domestic Investment in Nigeria. Now, I used a colon. I used a colon to introduce a subtitle, which I called The Role of the Inflation Rate. Okay, so that subtitle improves my title because it adds more ideas to what I did in that paper. And basically what I did was to understand how monetary policy affects investment in Nigeria, given that the inflation rate is changing. Okay. And then lastly, I want to say that you will most likely revise your title after writing your paper. And this is completely fine. Like I said, these things are not cast in stone. Even it happened to me when I began my research in January this year. My title was a little restrictive. But when I finished, I ended up making my paper more broad, which made me to change my title to reflect the broad nature of my paper. Okay, so just keep an open mind. And the thing about research is that as you go into the research, you kind of like identify new ways you can make it more interesting. And then feel free to actually reflect those new ways in your title because the title is the first thing people see when they look at your paper. Okay. So the second section I want to talk about is the introduction. So the first thing that it must have is the problem statement. Okay. So here you have to present evidence that the problem exists. For example, you want to study what factors affect unemployment rate in Nigeria. Okay. You must tell us that unemployment rate in Nigeria is a big problem. That kind of like makes people want to read this thing. Okay. And then you can also talk about a research gap if there is any. Maybe people have not done research in that particular research area before, or maybe you want to introduce new knowledge. So all of this can serve as your problem statement. Then you also have the research objective. This is what you want to achieve by the time you are done with your research. Okay, your research question or your objective. You have to answer the research question using your analysis by the end of your research. You must make sure that this objective is met. Okay. Then I also said that you have to show a good understanding of the research area. For example, talk to us about if there is any conflicting results from past research, or maybe if theory has any kind of conflicting result. Let's say, for example, you're studying corruption. Did some people say that corruption is good for economic growth? Did some people say that it is bad for economic growth? So these are the things you should be thinking about when you're trying to show good knowledge of the research area you are trying to occupy. And lastly, for the introduction section, you have to explain to us the importance of your research. So in economics, we basically talk about how important our research is to public policy. We want to inform policy. Okay, we want to use the result of our research to inform policy. Let's say, we did the research on if minimum wage increase affects ratio wage gap in the United States. If increasing the minimum wage actually affects ratio wage gap, then we can advise the government, okay, to keep on implementing minimum wage increase as a way of reducing the wage gap across population groups. This is a way to inform policy. You don't actually know these things by common sense. These are the things that research will tell you. Also, does your research contribute to literature? This is also very important. You have to explain to us in this section. Also, does the result of your research going to be used by the industry? And then those in computer science and statistics always try to find better algorithms that have better performance. So you have to explain all of this thing, what your research is going to achieve, and in what area is that going to be important to us. So the third section is the review of literature. So here I said that you must summarize the results of past research in your research area, and be sure to discuss the strengths and their weaknesses. Okay, so for me, I advise people to review about 2 to 3 previous research papers for their proposal that are published within the past 5 years, okay, and published in top journals in your field. There are 3 conditions here. About 2 or 3 papers, one, published within the past 5 years, so they must be recent papers. And then the third one is that published in top journals. Now, let me tell you why I recommend this, because if you only focus on papers published in, let's say, 1980s, old papers, you may think you have found a research gap that actually has been filled by more recent papers. Does it make sense? So that's why you should look at papers that are relatively new within the past 5 years. Okay, because they are doing the most innovative work. And if you can find any research gap among these papers, then you would feel confident that this issue is still a recent issue that I can address. But if you find a gap from 1980s, 1990s paper, those may have been taken care of by more recent papers. Then focus on papers published in top journals. And the reason for this is simple. Top journals go through, top journals employ rigorous peer review process. Before a paper is published, it must have been peer reviewed by other experts in the field. Okay, so that is why you have to make sure that the journals you are using are from top journals that have conducted proper peer review. Then lastly, you have to provide evidence that your research is still important to us. Having reviewed all of these papers, all of these top and recent papers, you have to tell us what else is your paper going to do that these papers have not done in the past. This is what justifies your work. And also, it kind of ties back to research gap I talked about in the second section. Okay, so be sure to discuss this after you must have reviewed your literature. You should use 2 or 3 paragraphs to explain to us extensively that having reviewed all of these papers, my paper is still going to do this and this and this that these papers I have reviewed did not do. Okay, so keep that in mind. Then the fourth section is what I call method. So here, basically, your aim is to discuss the scientific process you are going to use to answer your research question, the logical steps that you're going to employ to answer your research questions. Then this should also contain your data. How do you plan to collect your data if it is primary data? Do you plan to conduct interviews? Do you plan to send out questionnaires to people to fill out and then return to you? Tell us things about this, because the more you tell us, the more we know that this project is feasible. Then also discuss how you plan to analyze the data when you get them. What method do you plan to use? Do you plan to use ordinary least squares? Do you plan to use whatever method you plan to use? Maybe T statistics, F statistics, and all of that. Explain to us. And then discuss potential issues of your research and how they can be addressed. If you think that there are some issues about collecting data from a particular sample, you tell us those issues and how you plan to address them. If you think that your issue is going to be reaching out to subjects in your sample, discuss that in this section and then tell us how you plan to take care of that issue. Another issue common in research is attrition. Okay, you may send out 20 questionnaires and only 5 persons will submit complete answers or something like that. How do you plan to take care of all of this? You have to discuss them in this section. Then I said, if important, okay, include a project schedule table. So this is a table that probably gives you like a timeline for completing every step of the project. Okay, you can say, okay, after 1 month, I should be done with collecting data. After 2 months, I should be done with analyzing the data. After this, I should be done with the paper, that kind of thing. So this actually is very, very important, especially if you're working with outside organizations, because they want to know if you are going to spend money on this project, when do we expect to start getting output? Okay, so just have to understand your audience. But for this last point, I did not do it because it's just basically for my doctorate. But if you're working with any external organization that are looking to fund you, they may want to know your project timeline. Okay, so that they can know if they can commit their resources. Okay, and it also tells them that this person has a good idea of how this thing will go. Like you are in charge of the whole process. Okay, so keep that in mind. Then lastly, I have the conclusion, which basically is going to summarize what you have in the introduction, review of literature, and then your method. Just summarize the key points in these 3 sections. That can serve as a conclusion. Then references. This is very important. Plagiarism is a very serious crime in academia. Okay, it can cause you to lose your admission and your funding. So make sure that you properly cite every external material you use in your proposal. Because when you submit these things to schools, they run them through different plagiarism checkers. Okay, so don't think you can outsmart people here. You cannot. They have been in this business before you, so they know all the tools. So make sure that any item, even if it is from a website, have to cite the website. And then your references where you document everything that you have cited. In economics, we use APA format. So you have to use the APA format if you're in economics. I don't know the fields you guys belong to, but every field seems to have their own style for presenting their reference. And your references section must start on a new page. I didn't have that here, but I just remembered right now. It must start on a new page. So if your conclusion stopped mid-page, don't start your reference beneath it. You have to go to the next page and start your references. Okay? So in this section, I want to talk to you guys about how to incorporate research interest in your statement of purpose. Okay, I know that this part is going to appeal to more audience because every one of you is going to submit a statement of purpose. And I always say that you must dedicate one full paragraph in your SOP to discuss your research interest. It is a must. And that paragraph must contain at least 5, 6 full and complete sentences to discuss your research interest. And I always say this. The reason is because, like, going to school, going to graduate school has an opportunity cost, which is that you are going to miss out on potential earnings from working full time. So if you plan to go to school, you must have a good reason for going to school, which is mostly doing research. Okay, so you have to dedicate this one paragraph to discuss your research interest. Not only that, you have to explain to us how your previous study, okay, or work experience has informed your current research. You cannot wake up in the morning and say, oh, I have interest in AI. How did AI become an interest to you? Do you get me? Did you take any class in your undergrad where the professor made AI so interesting to you that you fell in love with it? This is a valid reason. Or maybe did you work in a tech company where they employ AI that it became interesting to you? This is also another valid argument. But don't just say that, oh, I like AI, and then you stop there. How did the interest emanate? Okay. Now, for those applying to the US, I will say this, you don't need to have a specific topic in mind when you are still applying. Okay, even if you have, you don't have to stick with it. Okay, but you must have an interest in mind and like a research interest in mind that you want to explore when you join the program. But you don't have to have a specific topic in mind. For example, you can say that, okay, I have interest in studying immigration, or I have interest in studying climate change. But you must not tell them that, oh, I want to study how climate change affects immigration. This is too specific. Okay? So having a research area in mind is good enough at this stage because interests change. You may come into the program, okay, with funding. Then after 1 year, you'll be like, man, I don't think I want to study immigration again. I want to study poverty. Maybe you took a class in that department and the professor taught about poverty and you loved the issues of poverty a lot and you were like, oh, I want to do this like from now on and not immigration. That is actually allowed. Okay. Then the fourth point I have here is that you should identify at least 2 faculty members in the department who have similar research interests. And I say this because it helps you to align yourself with the department. This is one, that alignment, you are a good fit. And 2, also, it tells them that you have done your homework because many people don't read the program website. A program says, okay, we have 2 fields, econometrics and labor economics. Some people will go ahead to email them, please, do you have econometrics in this department? But it is there online for you. So if you can present 2 persons' names in the department, it tells them that this person is a serious student and the person has done his or her homework. Okay? And I also said here, you don't have to work with them when you start. You don't have to work with them. Like I said, interests change. You may end up going to the department and you fall in love with another professor in a good way, not in a bad way. You like their work and you want to work with them. That is allowed. Okay? Now, finally, you can also discuss your future research interests if you have any. Okay? But it should kind of like align with your current research interest. So you cannot plan to research on A, like presently, and then your future interest is on Z that does not have anything to do with A. That would be too, I don't know. I don't know how to say, but it should just be, they'll think that you're not serious. Okay, so your current work and your future work should have some alignment. Okay, so that shows that you are actually a serious scholar. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation, guys. And like I said, you guys are free to ask your questions about the entire admission process, and I'm happy to answer the questions. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Obi. You have really nailed it. I tell you guys something. There is something I always tell people that knowledge is transient. It means that knowledge, it comes and goes. You learn, unlearn, and relearn. So nobody is above, nobody will say, I know it all. And this is what I always tell some of my colleagues down there in Nigeria. We if you come to academia, that is where you will see pride in most of our professors. They will say that, oh, maybe you are an assistant lecturer or you're a lecturer one, and that person is a senior lecturer. And then the person will not now want to learn from maybe a lecturer one, somebody that is still on lecturer one, because he felt, I'm a senior lecturer, oh, I'm associate prof, I don't need to learn from you. But they don't know that in life, you learn, you unlearn, and then you relearn. You learn, meaning that you learn new things. You unlearn, meaning that you throw away the ones you already know, and then you relearn, because when the reason for unlearning is for you to be updated. One of the things Obina said when he was talking about research, he said that you need to cite recent. You need to, when you are making when you want to take up your research, you need to cite something of 5 years, because if you're going to be citing those of 1980, 1970, when we are in 2023, it can't possibly determine a gap, because the gap you're trying to determine must have been covered by some other people who did their research in 1990 or 2001 and all that. So why I'm saying it is because I really learned something, even as much as I am a graduate student like Obina, but I really learned something new, which I will even apply to the research proposal that I'm currently writing. I'm working on one research proposal that I want to submit for publication. So, and there's something Obina said here that I just learned something new and I jotted it down, which I'm going to work on. So it means that you can learn from anybody. Nobody knows it all. If you're a professor and you claim you're a professor and then you cannot learn from your younger ones, then it means you don't know what you have come to do. I learn every day from even undergraduates. I tell you most solemnly, most of the lecturers maybe I'm not trying to look down on anybody, but then it's a fact, because the method of education in Africa is not the same with method of education here. So you find out that in most cases, a lecturer, a professor in Nigeria, in probably in Africa, may not argue comfortably with an undergrad here, because it's not that the undergrad is more than the professor, but then there is a kind of education they are giving us here. There's a kind of stress they are making us pass through here in our education here, and then it makes us to be to be very strong, even as an undergrad. Not talk of when you are not doing a graduate program. So I thank Obina so much. He has really nailed it, and I believe that this is going to be a very wonderful thing for all of us, and it's going to give us some kind of new knowledge. So I think now we have to take some questions. I don't know, and then questions, reactions. I don't know if there are any other scholars on ground. Like I said, I don't know it all. Obina don't even know it all. Nobody knows it all. So we can leave a few minutes for reactions. People, if you want to react, you can come up, raise up your hand, and then I will unmute you from here. You can react. You can ask questions if you have any question. concerning your thesis and all that. You can ask them. I don't know. Let me check the. I don't know if Good Luck has something to add. I know he's a scholar, and then he can have one or two things to also add to what we are saying. So, don't know. Good Luck. You have anything to add or remove?
Yeah,
Nobody.
I just mentioned a few other points which I have dropped already on the charts. But first of all, many thanks to Obina for the very detailed explanations. Well, from my experience, like I would say, like experience writing papers and publishing papers, I would say that it takes a lot to actually write proposals. So you really have to define the problem you need to solve, and there's you may just have these very beautiful ideas, but still to put it on paper is a lot of work. So there are materials that tells you how to do that, and writing a research proposal is it has to take an academic structure, just like Obina has already emphasized. So you could, that was why I also dropped some of the recommendations I did already via the chat. Try to consult books that talks about writing proposals. Already there are sections that are clearly defined, which is the title, the statement of the problem, the context, the relevance, the rationale, the motivation. So you need to find out what are the subtle differences between these categories. And then read. I already recommended Cresswell, especially for those that are in education arts. And of course, you can get some of the ideas also for scientific research proposals from there. And then more importantly, when you're doing your literature search is a big deal. If you're writing if you're doing a literature review or you're writing a review paper, you would have to use maybe the traditional method of review, or you could just use the Prisma method. Yes, but then when it comes to proposal, you need to like put make a summary of the presentation, and so that means in that sense, you would have to write something a lot less, but still very meaningful. And one of the sources I used to try to get at least a rough idea of the recent papers that have been written in line with a particular subject or study would be, you could use Research Rabbits, you could use Connected Papers, and you could also use Elicit. What these tools do is that they draw some circumference to the level of research, and they kind of pinpoint one or two authors that are major that have contributed majorly to a particular paper. For example, if you use Connected Papers, it's like very diagrammatic. You can look up some of these sources on YouTube to see how they work. So it connects you really to these researchers that are in these fields or in recent fields or close to what you're studying. And these researchers could be those that have contributed to the frameworks. They could be people that have made a particular finding, people that have identified gaps, people that are studying something new related to that concept. And so from there, you could just cite and contrast and see where there are alignments with what you have and how you can exploit the gaps that have already been projected by these authors. So it's good that we have some of these tools so that in as much as we are working and we are trying to do some things that are very relevant, we can do something that meets the expectation of the academic requirement for a proposal. But once again, I must say so many thanks, so much thanks to Obina, who has really taken time out to do justice to this section. And of course, thank you again, Stanley, and for every other person. I'm looking forward to more contributions. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So
Yeah, so Stanley,
I,
just give me a
I
moment,
think
please. Just give me a
okay.
moment. So I
Okay.
want to I want to thank Good Luck. Yeah, thank you so much for pointing those resources out. So I work full time, so I did not really take so much time to prepare this. So I missed some important things which you pointed out. So thank you so much. So
You
I
did a
mean,
great job. Great job.
there are so many tools online that can actually help you get papers for your review application and all of that. So I actually support what Good Luck told you guys. I mean, those are important resources that you can look into. Yeah. Thank you. Good luck. Yeah, I can go on, Stanley.
Yeah, thank you so much. You see why I said we need more scholars to, nobody knows it all. I don't know it all. Obina don't know it all. Good Lord doesn't know it all. So thank you so much, good Lord, for that insight. And I trust you. I know what you can make. I can be. You're not a young person in this academics. Uh, so thank you so much. So I think we have to take some questions. Some people are raising their hands. So I saw some questions on the chat box, which I'm gonna read out to Obi to rat. But
Okay.
first of all take let's take first let's first of all take people who are raising their hands. Then we can now go to the chat box to read the questions that are there. So Prince Will, you can unmute to ask either questions or whatever you want to talk about. You can unmute
Okay,
yourself now.
good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
So, thanks to Mr. Obina for such a wonderful presentation, and thanks to Mr. Stanley for organizing this particular webinar that's been going on for some time. So, my question is, when writing your research proposal, or okay, let me know for personal statement now. When writing your personal statement, and you maybe you want to mention your research interest, must it has to do with has to do with what you currently working on. For instance, let me give an instance now. For someone that studied economics, okay, and and has graduated for like 3 or 4 years ago, and is working in the education sector, maybe yeah, in the education sector, probably teaching in a school or stuff like that. And now he wants to conduct research in something that has to do with health economics, right? But you are seeing that it does not relate to the person's work experience. So how would you make the person's work experience when it's not quite related to what the person wants to investigate in his research proposal?
Okay. Can I answer, Stanley?
Yeah. Can go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the essence of this section is not just for me to answer. So any person who has, I mean, other ideas can also share. So so thank you for that question. Your research interest must not emanate from your work experience. So there are so many things that could be going on. You could be working in the education sector, but you live probably in Nigeria, where the health system is faulty. So this is actually a good reason, like a good and a valid reason to pick your interest in that research area that you want to study health in Nigeria. So that is also like another way to think of it. It must not be based on your undergrad experience or your work experience. No. Okay, if you live in a country where the health system is not working fine, this is actually enough to make you want to pursue that as a research goal. Okay, so you can just try to think outside of the box. Think about things going on in your community. These are things that can actually make you want to study something. Okay, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, yes. And then in addition to what Obi said, if you remember when he was talking, he said something about one of your undergraduate uh, um, topics, one of your undergraduate courses that you've done. So your research interest can also come from there. For instance, you love when you are reading, like for instance, I myself, when I was studying, when I was in my undergraduate, please can you mute yourself, Cassie? So when I was in my undergrad, I
So I
became
mean, you can mute
interested
them
in
since you have
yeah, okay.
admin privileges. Yeah.
So when I was in my undergrad, I developed interest in work-life balance. And that was because there was one of the courses they taught us that time. And work-life balance was what the lecturer was stressing all about. In fact, that course was full of how you balance your work life with your uh, your personal life. So I developed interest in that, and that was one of the proposals that I submitted when I was applying to one university in UK, that I want to research on work-life balance. And work-life balance was something that was in tune as of then. Just like what he said, when you are making your research, when you're proposing your research, you should propose not just something you have interest in, but something that is current. That is something that is happening now. You can't be researching about, like for instance, now we are in the COVID-19 has brought about remote work. Remote work is something that is trending now when it comes to academics, when it comes to research world. How many people, like for instance, this semester, I'm a graduate research assistant, and one of the things I do for the department is to carry out research, gather data about what other people have said about a certain thing. And what I worked on in this spring was on how remote work, how many people, when it comes to remote work, which people likes remote work more than the other? Is it young people? Is it old people? Young people of which age? Old people of which age? So, and in most of the things I gathered, I was able to understand that young people like remote work more than the old people from the most of the data that I gathered online. So this is something that you can actually work on. So when you're talking of research interest, you talk of something that is happening now that was of interest to you when you were in undergraduate, which is still something that is trending right now. Thank you. Okay, I think Linda, you have your hands up.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can
Yeah,
hear me.
yeah,
Am I
we can
audible?
hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. For the person who asked the last question, like the present question now we're addressing, what I want to say is, most of the time, even some of us who think we have gone some certain
Can you,
heights,
Linda,
comes to,
can you speak, can you remove maybe some, because your voice goes in and out.
okay, what I'm saying,
I
hello,
think
can
it's
you hear
better now.
me?
Yes, it's better now.
Can you hear me?
It's better
Okay,
now.
okay. What I want to say is that for those of us who even thought that maybe like who had gone to an exam and all the likes, as you would have to look for a research gap or area of interest when it comes to writing your proposal. The same thing would still occur at that point, or when you want to do your undergraduate research. Most importantly is identifying a gap. Just identify a gap. So you were asking, your question is more or less like you have a background in a certain area and then you want to go into another area because of an interest you have just developed. So the question is, what made you like that new place? That is where you can start. So if you want to go into health, maybe because, for instance, let me say my great grandma died of glaucoma, which is a eye problem. So if I would want to study something of that kind, I could say, okay, because of glaucoma, I want area from going to engineering. Now I want to divert. So for me to be able to have a research gap, simply because I don't have an initial exposure on glaucoma, what I need to do is look for recent paper, just like what Obi had said. Just browse on maybe in Google Scholar, in PubMed, in Science Direct, in Web of Science or Web of Knowledge, or any of these on Nature or the rest of them. Just put the keyword glaucoma in humans or glaucoma in through maybe through some cell samples or animal samples or something. Just put the name glaucoma and you will see recent papers. So when you read those papers, if you want to see what like the objective, the aim, the research gap, go for the abstract. Most of the time you will see what they try to address. You will see something that will tell you something that will be in the abstract. But if you are not understanding it, maybe because you don't have an initial knowledge of it, go to the introduction. Most of the time it is the second or last the last paragraph of every introduction. Most is paper, especially papers published in well-reviewed papers, like good journals, not just all these pedagogical journals. Like no, if you go to good journals, last paragraph of the introduction, you will get research. it will also help you to maybe develop an idea of it. That is also a very good place. So you already know that glaucoma is a thing you want to address, but you don't know why. You don't know the title. You don't know how to put the idea together. Look, first of all, you have to go to very good journals, get like five papers each. You look at them. Okay, which of them is of interest to you? Then you go through the abstract quick, and then you go to the introduction. When you get to the introduction, most of the time, just target the last paragraph, and you will get an idea. You will get the objective, the aim, and why they said that particular subject is of interest. So another thing I want to add in general notes is that there are some scholarships you would want to apply for. They would not tell you to submit a proposal. They would just put statement of purpose. But by the time you notice that the work requirement is already too much, then you should know that it is more of a proposal than a statement of purpose. In a situation like for instance, if you're applying for a scholarship in China or most Asian countries like Japan as well, like some of all these Asian countries, like very good schools in those places, and then they tell you to write a statement of purpose, and the statement of purpose you're asked to write is ranging between, maybe they tell you to write from 3,000 words. My dear, nobody wants to know that maybe what is even this common thing we do write a statement of purpose. When I will come, nobody wants to get that. When they tell you to write over 3,000 words, please target a research proposal. At the end of the research proposal, then you can now write some interesting things you would have want to maybe make a paragraph for that or give it a subtitle. But most of the time, for statement of purpose, they will tell you'll be told to submit like 1 page or maximum of 500 to 700 words. Most in the US tell you within 700 words. But when you see it going above 3,000 as required, please, it is more of a proposal. Most people, like I know of a man right now, is very, like he's even a lecturer in Nigeria, but couldn't get admitted to my institution where I did my master's. That was simply because he submitted a normal statement of purpose instead of a research proposal. So sometimes you have written the exam, done the interview, and all the like, but something as simple as what you submitted is just the thing that will make you disqualified. So some of you might be thinking that, oh, this has to do with your research, maybe your undergraduate, or maybe you start the matter. No, it is also important in your application. So when you are told to write anything, check the word. That would help you know if you are supposed to write statement of purpose or research proposal. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Even though your voice was still
Yeah,
going
and
in,
the audio
good.
was, yeah.
Yes, the audio was very not so wonderful, but at least I was able to get your points and some of the things you are saying. And one of the most important thing you just said, which I need to point out here, is that when you are writing a statement of purpose, and it is up to 3,000 and above, you should include your research proposal in it. Don't just write a statement of purpose, because most universities that want to admit you will tell you write a statement of purpose, but most of them will give you the number of words you should write, either 500 words, 750 words, and all that. So if it is within 500 and 750 words, I just write the normal statement of purpose. We're going to talk more about the statement of purpose maybe in lecture fifth, in fifth week of this program, and it will be handled by good luck. So he will be able to tell you guys what you're supposed to write on statement of purpose, and then he will kind of give a disparity between statement of purpose and then research proposal and all that. So when we get to that point, we will talk more about statement of purpose. So I would like to look at some of the questions on the chat box. Obi, that is okay. The first question, they say, is this material gonna be being available for us on WhatsApp group? I think Obi,
Yes,
you
I'm
have
I'm going
to.
to send it to you.
Yes, yes, yes,
I'll
yes.
send
We
it
have
to you.
to. Yeah, we'll make it available. So the second question here is someone asked something else. He said the person wants to know the difference between research proposal and memo. Because I think okay, he said a research proposal is almost is she was trying, maybe he or she, I don't know, was trying to know whether it is like a memo or like a final year project in a, like project or thesis. So you want to know is the difference between research interest, research proposal and final year proposal, or is it like a memo?
Um, so I mean, when I hear memo, I kind of like think of it from the business sense. So I will not call it a memo. It is just like your typical document. In fact, it is similar to your final project than to a memo. Okay. And like I showed you guys, it has to contain some important components I already highlighted. It should have like a title, the introduction, the review of literature, and then methods and conclusion and a reference. Simple. So I don't really understand what the person is trying to get when the person mentioned memo, but it is just like a document. And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it is similar to your project and not a memo. I will say it this way.
yes, exactly. It is what you said is just the answer. It is similar to your thesis, your final year thesis or something or whatever. It's just a document that shows your plan. What is your plan? What do you want to do in this topic? So a memo is more of um, you know,
A means of
writing.
like communication.
Yes, a way of communication. Maybe I'm gonna post on the group WhatsApp this thing that just came up. You know, why we do some of these things is to get something we can post on the group WhatsApp. I will post a format of a memo. I think we have written a lot of memos in our department, so I'm gonna post a format of writing a memo, so you know the difference between research interest and research proposal and a memo. So another question here says, you said references
So
should
I'm
be
Stanley, please, excuse me. So I
okay.
mean, I want to know if I answered the question, if we answered the person's question, or if the person needs more explanation.
I think you answered it, and I think I don't know the person asked it. If the person does is not satisfied, the person can still raise up his or her hands, or probably send a follow up question on the chat group on the chat box. So another question is you said
Um,
references should be on.
a minute. Yeah, maybe also
Okay.
we can, yeah, maybe going forward too, we can assist the person just to drop some components of research proposal.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
can also be helpful because it just like on the overview it contains the title, the introduction, the abstract introduction, the objective, then the rationale, the statement of purpose, the just theory in brief, and then other small components like expected outcomes, limitations, and so maybe that could from that line the person can have a sense of what the document would look like.
yeah. So yes, what we'll be doing in that our WhatsApp group chat, that our WhatsApp group chat is an educational WhatsApp group chat. It's not ordinary. That's why we don't always allow unnecessary messages, posted there. Is like our learning platform where we post some of these things. So we can actually send you guys a format of a research proposal and then a format of a memo and some of these things. Last week we did something on a CV. I was able to post a format of a CV and then academic and professional CV. So we'll be using that our WhatsApp platform to be posting some of these things for you guys to be. You can always download it from there and then use it for when you are doing your personal writings. So the next question says, you said references should be on a fresh page. What if you are given a maximum of 3 pages and your conclusion is on the third page? Starting your references Starting your reference, wait, I think this is blocking something. So the person is trying to know, he says, starting your reference on a fourth page, will it not be against the rule of the maximum of 3 pages? So what the person is trying
Yeah,
to know here is, they said you say something about your reference
yeah,
should start in the, I mean, your reference should start in a fresh page, but probably you are asked to write 3 pages, and you have been
yeah.
able to put up everything you want to do in 3 pages. If you now go to fourth page to put your reference, is it a crime?
Um, yeah, I mean, I actually like this question a lot because I always ask my professor this kind of question because we always have guidelines for formatting and all of that. So, based on my experience, when you are asked to limit your writing to, let's say, 5 pages, 3 pages, or whatever, it will basically be about the body of that paper, not things like references and appendix and all of that. Okay, this is based on my experience. Okay, but if you were asked to fit everything in 3 pages, then I would say you should just start your reference on the third and final page. Try to summarize the other pages, the items on the other pages better. Okay, this is what I would just say. Putting your reference on a new page is kind of like the way it is done. Okay, but I have seen some journal papers, okay, that does not start the references on the first page, but that's just specific to those journals. But in academia, generally, we just stick with starting your references on a new page.
Yeah, yes. In addition to that, you know, some of these things, they work with, they will also give you like font size, um, space gap, I mean, the space line you should give and all that. And then probably, yeah, font size and all that. And then the format, either it's going to be time, this one, I mean, it's going to be new time series, or whether it's going to be any other kind of font size. So all of these things goes with the font and everything. So you work on that and try to have everything in 3 pages. If it says categorically 3 pages. But I think most of this research, most of the lecturers, like for instance in my department, when they tell you to write a research proposal, tell you to write something of 3 pages, they will say 3 pages excluding references. Or some of them will say, let it be 1,000 words, excluding references. So when something like this is said, then you should know that fourth page is allowed. Assuming they say 3 pages, excluding references, then you know that fourth page can be allowed. It's not a crime. Because then what you have to now do is to make sure that everything you're going to write will be on 3 pages. Then the fourth page can now take in the references. So it all depends. Anytime some of these academic journal, they're asking for research proposal, they always give criteria or kind of requirements. Criteria that, I mean, the requirements you need to meet up with, or the criteria you need to follow for you to present that research proposal. So just try to read what the person is saying, or what actually they want. Then you'll be able to know whether exceeding the fourth page is allowed or not. Okay, Linda, is like you want to say something. Please,
Yeah, just very quick. Oh my god.
you are having echo.
Yeah, that's because I'm using both my system and my phone. So let me just step out from my room. Okay, so the thing is, the person could try to use the different style of referencing. There's some reference style that you don't have to write the whole name of the journal. Like it would be like it would be abbreviated.
And if on the list of the authors, maybe after the first two, then the last one in between could just be dots, 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 or etal. So there are different styles of writing references that make them more concise and compressed compared to writing the whole thing. So sometimes when you're given those limits and maybe you are not privileged to knowing if you could go to the fourth page, what you just do is try to use those simple style of references that would help you compress all your reference into a particular page. And again, I think if you are to change the size and also the line spacing of references, I don't think you'll be penalized for that. So like maybe they give you like, okay, write maybe in 12 font size and then the style and then the style and then they tell you line spacing 1.5. For the references, you could use 0.5 or 1, and then you could also make use of smaller fonts, and you could also decide to use a reference that has smaller, like smaller details, just giving the name, first name of the author, XL, so the title, abbreviated journal. Some people don't even write the title, they just write the name of the author, the abbreviated journal, page, and volume without a DOI number. So there are some styles of references that I can accommodate that. And another thing I do is instead of writing the name, I use number like 1, 2, 3, and then go and number using. So all of those things help to see that you still have your references, you have the point you want to present, and at the same time, you are within the page. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so someone in the chat box was trying to also no, wait. Okay, someone in the chat box was also trying to ask me a question about if this material is going to be made available. Yes, we have
Yes,
answered.
going to
We are
send
going to
that.
make it available, and we're also going to make. So, okay, somebody said something about the timing of this, that they didn't join on time because of time difference. Please, that issue of time difference, I always set it West African time. And I know that West African time, Nigerian time is like 6 hours ahead of US. Ghana is about 5 hours ahead of US. So if we say 6 p.m. Nigerian time, it is 12 a.m., 12 p.m. US time, US Central Time, and it is 5 p.m. Ghana time. So if we say like 3 p.m. Nigerian time, know that it is 2 p.m. Ghana time. So whenever, just try to study this time zone difference by yourself. I would have said, let me set it US Central Time, but most people, I don't know, probably the next one I have to just set it US Central Time so that you check the time zone online between your country and US Central Time, and then you can join. So please, I'm sorry about that. So next week we'll discuss on that and see either we use the only time zone we're going to be using is either we use West African time. So when we use West African time, you check West African time to your own time zone and see. But whenever we say West African time, I think Nigeria is always the time we are looking at. Or I can even say Nigerian time. I may have to use Nigerian time so that you can now check it with your own country, wherever, because all of us are not in the same country. So someone said, I aim to focus my research on how capital structures affect market competitiveness. Is that specific or welcome as general? Wait, let me actually get what this person is trying to say. Okay, it
So,
says,
Stanley, I actually would encourage them to open their mics and talk. I think I would like to hear their voices than you reading out the questions.
yeah, they posted it here. So maybe the person that posted it is not even out. And you know, some people find it difficult to speak in the public. So that's why we
That's a
encourage
skill they should start learning.
yes, and it's even true because here you can't study here without public speaking. Every week we make presentations in class. But for now, let's just read some of these ones. You can answer it. Then next week we're expecting you guys to be talking because it's still part of the things you need to learn. So so he said, I aim to focus my research on how capital structures affect market competitiveness. Is that specific or welcome as general that can be included in the SOP? Mr. Obinna, please clarify this for me.
Okay. So, I mean, this sounds like someone in economics. So I will not say it is so specific. Okay, so this cannot really be your topic for your research project or your proposal. Okay, but I will not say it is also too general. So I mean, I think this should be fine for your statement of purpose. Okay, but if you want to do a research proposal, then you should be thinking of something more specific than this. I don't know if that makes sense. But it is okay for you to use it in your statement of purpose, but not for your proposal. Because at that point, you should have narrowed down to something you want to study. Okay.
Okay, so Obed, you said you asked a question, but you don't see it here. Maybe you can ask your question directly, and then maybe you are also going to say the vote of thanks. Obed, you can ask your question later. I will call you to ask the question. Um, okay, please, can some of the scholars here give us a sample of research proposal that they used? You got okay, no problem. You will get it at the WhatsApp group chat. Um, if I listen attentively, research proposal, okay. I've passed this one. Please, is research proposal the same with description of research project? I think we've answered this question before. At,
Um,
is asking, is research proposal the same as a research project itself? I think maybe it's just trying to know the difference between research proposal and research and the main thesis.
so what I would say about that question, I think I saw it on the chat box. So what I would say about it is that, I mean, I think that term description of research is too vague. So if I were in your shoes, I will ask the department what they mean. Okay. You guys should actually feel free to communicate with the departments. I know that the schools in US are very responsive. They reply to your emails within 2 business days. Okay. So when you are not sure of things like this, email them and they will respond. Okay. So for me, I cannot give any definitive answer because I'm not sure of what that term means. But you can ask the department and they will tell you what they mean.
Okay, this one says, can one apply for courses that deals purely on library research as against questionnaire or interviewing? What are the chances of securing admission? So you say, can one apply for courses that deals purely on library research as against questionnaire or interviewing? I don't you really get what the person is trying to ask.
So if the person is here, the person can unmute and speak to us directly because the question
Yeah,
is kind of
the
vague.
question is, I'm trying to get what is it apply for courses that deals purely on library research as against questionnaire or interviewing? I don't know what
Okay,
the
based
person.
on how I understood it, I'll just try to answer the question. So the person is probably asking if his research must involve interviewing people or maybe giving them questionnaires to fill out. So I would say, I mean, different fields have different kinds of research they do. Some fields don't even do quantitative research, and that is okay. So what matters is the program you are going to, you should be able to speak to them in the language they understand. If you are applying to economics program, then you should be talking about something more quantitative. If you're applying for history, then you know what people in history do. Okay, but I believe that every field have their own areas of research. Okay, and if you're asking also if you can get funding, if you're applying for library research or science, of course, I think most programs in the US actually offer funding to their students. But this is how I understood your question. I don't know if you want to clarify that.
Maybe if I may understand what he or she is trying to ask. Maybe he's trying to know if it's gonna be more of a quantitative research or qualitative research. Then I think probably he wants to know if it is secondary or primary. I don't know. I'm seeing this question from different angles. If it's going to be primary method of collection of data or secondary method of collection of data. Secondary, which is journals, resources from online and all that. Or
Okay.
primary, which is
Okay.
interviewing, going to the
Yeah.
interviewing people, or kind of a focused discussion group and all that. I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
for me, I think if I will answer, if it is from that angle, there are some research that you can depend on focus. I mean, the resources you got online and all that, and probably library information you got, books and all that. But then there are some you need to go to the field. You need to get the information directly from the respondents. So you share questionnaire or kind of do a kind of a survey, online survey. You can send a link, people will fill, and then you get your data from that. That's part of like one of the research we have done so far. We sent out. I created a survey, and then I sent it out. So people responded, I got the responses, and then from there I was able to get my data. So you can also organize something like a focus group where you call together the people that you want to research on. Probably if you want to talk about how NIU students feel about the school library services, or how NIU students feel about the dining services. So you can call some of the students. If you're talking of dining, you can call some of the students who are living in the hostel, and then organize a kind of a focus group program for them, and then try to get their answers, their responses. From there, you'll be able to produce something that is good for your research. So I really think we have done justice to that question. If we have not done justice to it, you can also raise up your hands and then give us more clue on what you want us to answer. So I think the questions here are done. So okay, I think we are done with the questions here. So if we have not answered your question, feel free to raise up your hands, or better still, you can throw your question on the WhatsApp group chat. Obina
Yeah.
is there.
So I think someone just typed something in the chat box.
Where is
Yeah,
it?
I can try to read it out.
Okay, can't see it. It's like a direct message also.
Okay, so let me read it if you cannot see it.
Yeah.
So this question is coming from Okonkwo Ikenna Godfrey. So the message is, I have a worry. I read philosophy in
Okay.
school, and my work experience since after school has been as a solar system engineer. Now I want to apply in the field of psychology because I had a 1-year course on psychology. Can this work out safely since I am not really grounded in psychology? Yes. So for me, I would say yes. Like I keep on saying, interests change. Okay. People develop, like I've seen people who studied, let's say, economics during their bachelor's, and then they want to study, what can I think of? Computer science. Okay. And that could be because after their undergraduate education, they found employment in a tech company. So as they were working in the tech company, they developed interest in computer science. So you have taken a 1-year course on psychology, which is actually a valid reason to make a switch. So 1 year is enough time for someone to develop new interest. But what I would advise you is that we have so many e-learning platforms like Coursera. We also have EDX. You can take courses on psychology for free on these websites. okay, and add it to your CV or to your resume, as the case may be. When you apply to schools, also mention it on your statement of purpose that I have taken these courses on psychology and they have improved my background in psychology. Okay. Not only does this show that you're a serious student, it shows that you kind of like you are a self-starter. Okay. Going to take courses on issues and like it puts you on a very good life, actually. So I mean, I think your case is actually very straightforward and it is something you can do. Of course, I mean, I endorse that 100%.
All right. So somebody was asking if I should add him to the WhatsApp group. So the way we add people in the WhatsApp group chat is you have to fill a form. We have a form you need to fill online, and then you write a letter of intent. One of the reasons, okay, our main reason for starting that is because Edu-Afrique scholars, we are not like every other conventional people that do some of these online services that are just there to, to draw crowd or to have traffic. We are not interested in traffic. We are not interested in having a lot of people who do not align with our interest. Our interest is to build a community of scholars who are ready to make changes in the society and not a kind of community of Japa people. That word Japa, it's people have misunderstood it in lot of ways. Some people see it as running away from the hardship of their country. No, that is not why we are bringing people out of Africa. Why we are bringing people out of Africa is to bring you here for you to learn how things are done here. Like I said when we started this program, I said we want to build a large community of people who will, in the next 10 to 15 years, contribute to their home countries after they have gone to some of these Western countries and seen how things are done. You can probably replicate such in your country. We want our continent, Africa, to be a place that people are rushing to. We are rushing to some of these Western countries, but I still have the hope that in future, some of these Western countries will start rushing to us. And the only way we can do that is to build a large community of people who knows what they have come to do here. A lot of people don't even come here, they even leave their programs and they start doing other things. That's why you hear what is happening currently in the UK. People come to school and they leave what they have come to do to go and start doing care work visa and care work, whatever, all those things. And that is why, if you look at the recent information we got now, UK from next year, currently UK have raised the initial payment you have to pay from Nigeria. It used to be 2,000, but now it's 6,000 pounds. And then they brought up another law that from January you will no longer come with your family, because we've discovered that people, when one person gets admission, he will carry his father, his mother, his whole family, and they will come and become kind of a nuisance to the community. So these are the problem we have, and we need to change that narrative. So we discovered that a lot of people were joining our WhatsApp group platform. People who don't understand why we set up this our platform. They will just join and they are just there. Even there are even some scammers who wanted to even hack our WhatsApp group chat. So because of that, we brought up different measures. And one of the measures is that you have to write a statement of purpose of 100 to 150 words. We read those things. Recently, I looked at the responses. About 35 or 40 persons applied, but I don't think I have added up to 15 persons out of that 40 persons, because most of them, I don't understand what they are writing. Some of them will just, I don't know. So if we see the seriousness in what you have written, we will know that you want to join. Then we'll now add you. If we don't see, we'll not add you. We are not looking for crowd. We are looking for people who are academically minded, who are nation building minded, so that we will help and nurture them and help them to get to where they are going to. So maybe what you will get is the link for you to write a letter of intent. Another reason we are asking for a letter of intent, to actually know if you actually have a background knowledge of what you're actually coming for. Because letter of intent, statement of purpose, research proposal, all these things are what you must write before you get admission, even before you even start talking of scholarship. you must know how to do some of these things. So we need to know if you actually have interest. Then we can now from there know if we can work with you or not. In fact, I'm working seriously on how we can even reduce the number of persons in the WhatsApp group platform. So once we see that you are posting something that is not in line with what we are doing, I'll just remove you. So because we don't need crowd, that place is it's an academic ground. So having said that,
Yeah.
I want to call on Obed. Obed, can you ask that your question live? If you're on call, mute yourself and ask your question live. Otherwise,
Hello, Stanley.
yeah.
Yes, I think my question has been answered. That was related to the sample I gave. I aim to focus on how do we even call it? Stop that. I aim to focus on how related to the market competitiveness. I wanted to find out if that was specific or general, and Obina answered it, and I'm okay now.
Okay, thank you. So I believe everyone is okay, and I'm happy that this program we did today has been able to impact. For those who did not start on time, I think we have a record of this. So at the end of this thing, I always upload it on our YouTube channel. So you can watch it from there. If you didn't start from the beginning, you can watch some of the things. You can also send your questions. If you after watching it, you can send your questions either on the YouTube channel. You can also send your questions on our Facebook page. You can also send your questions on our WhatsApp platform. So anytime we may not be able to answer immediately, but I believe because here we time na money if it is in our local language. Time na money, And I tell you guys, it's not easy for us to organize this program. We take time and time and time to plan to see how we can squeeze out time for things like this. Obina here is doing an internship, and his internship is like 8 hours every day. He starts from 8 a.m. and to 4 p.m. And likewise, every other person. Linda, now that is online, she's in Hong Kong. And this time, Hong Kong time now, I think it should be about 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. of Hong Kong, but she's awake and she's here. So you see the kind of sacrifices people are making. These are scholars who are also pursuing their own interests, who are also pursuing their own career development. And we bring out our time to do this. And we are not even asking people for any money. We are not interested in your money. What we are interested in is in building community. A lot of people, some people have even come to my DM to ask me, why don't you tag money to this? And someone sent me a message on Facebook and said, how much can he pay to join in this program or to be part of this program, to be added? I have always told them, it's not
I
about
didn't know
money.
people have money to pay.
I'm telling you, okay, if people have the money, people can first sending us the money, but well, it's not about money. It's not about the money. What we are interested is in having people who can actually make changes. This morning I had a Facebook chat with some. I commented in one of the Facebook posts of a priest friend of mine. Posted something about the recent suspension of MFL and the arrest at DSS, and the person was like, there is nothing we can do again rather than to sit down and watch and pray that you cannot stop corruption. But I went to the person's this indirect message to tell him that, yes, this is the problem we have in our country today. And this is the problem. We have already given up, that there's nothing we can do. And as such, let us now accept corruption as a normal thing. And then I went further to tell the person that this is one of the problems we have in our place. We give up and we say, let God handle everything. You don't do that. Why would you do that? That is why someone like P2B, he always speak, and he's my role model when it comes to politics. One of the rascality he has come to stop is this thing, accepting corruption as a normal thing. So that is why we have set up this platform of Edu Afri scholars, to build people who are minded, who are that, who have interest in developing their country. And a lot of people who just want to japa, no, that is not what we want. And that's why we are not looking for crowd, like I said earlier. So, okay, so I think Good Luck has something to say, my co-host.
Yeah, you are almost discussing politics, and then I I wanted to jump in and re-emphasize the purpose of Indo-Afrique from the
Yeah,
concept, from the whole conception, really. The idea was to bring African scholars to collaborate, and of course, from the platform, and most of our participants has always been majority Nigerians, but then we still have a couple of other participants from West Africa and a couple from Zimbabwe and Southern Africa. Yeah, but then the idea is to get collaboration. So we should invite our friends, other scholars, other academics from wherever they are in Africa. And of course, it's also relative. It doesn't mean people from outside Africa cannot participate, but the whole idea is for research collaboration. I want you to think long term. I mean, of course, you still have to like study in 2, 3 years and maybe even do a PhD, but then after school, what next? So the long-term plan, of course, these strategies we would see more in our next documents. The long-term plan is just to have a cluster of researchers and academics and skilled people. And then over time, we are looking forward to setting up our own startups, building startup communities, getting more involved with industries. These are the long-term prospects. And we cannot do this without having people who are resident, who are knowledgeable in different disciplines, and people who can collaborate not just in Nigeria or in Ghana or Uganda or in Zimbabwe, but they could be at least, let it be that we have this Pan-African dimension and we can cooperate within ourselves. And then again, just to call out, when we go out and when we seek knowledge outside, we have two objectives. The first is to contribute to your host community and then to your home community. So it is two factorial. You communicate, of course, you build up yourself, but then again, you contribute to your host community. You have to be serviceable to them and also to you yourself and to back home, because that way you are generating currencies, relationship currencies that you can use to foster this collaborative work we are thinking of. So these are what we have in mind. And if you have the same mindset with us, you're always welcome to associate and to reach out to any of us. Thank you, but that's just for more emphasis.
yeah, that's cool. I just posted the group WhatsApp. I mean, not group
Okay.
WhatsApp. I mean the link
I sent it
to join. That link is a Google form link. So there you will fill the form, write a letter of intent. We will read it. We read it too. I read a lot of them yesterday, and I sieved a lot of them out, and then accepted few of them that we added. So we'll keep on doing that, and we believe that by God's grace we are going to achieve our aim. So okay. I'm actually saying who was referred to you by father. I have benefited more since I connected with you. Okay, so we can talk more on that. Thank you, thank you for your Ikenna Godfrey. Ikonkwo Ikenna Godfrey. Thank you for the message. I saw it. So Obed, do your vote of thanks so that we wrap it up.
Oh, okay. First of all, on behalf of we the potential scholars and also the current scholars that have made up their time, and also to our lecturer Obi, want to thank you so much for the opportunity of making time to actually enlighten us. We were really impacted because me, for instance, I've actually been trying a couple of times. I think last year was my second time trying to apply, and I made the reserve list. From there, I have followed up everything in the group, and I want to share this not just to make the vote of thanks long, but I was there quite a few days ago. I added one of my fellows, my serious fellows, to the group at the time back when the link was being shared. So it was this week that she reached out to me that this year she didn't plan on applying, but the way the group is and testimonies are flowing, she wants to start to apply. And I'm like, oh, Charlie, it's a good thing. So I was there yesterday, then she sent me an SOP draft that she made for the first time to actually review for her. And I was quite impressed because the group is impacting people and actually making sure that everyone is on toast and to desire more on their dream to study abroad. So we want to thank you so much for making time, Mr. Obina. And on behalf of everyone, for the last time, I say thank you. And we aim to participate more in the next section that will be organized. So thank you so much for making time for us all.
Thank you so much, you guys, for also participating, because if you don't come up, we won't be here. So thank you for being here. And we keep on, like I said, we are not looking for crowd. What we're looking for is minded, people who are focused minded people. So next week we are going to talk on writing emails to professors, because you guys know it's not just about what we're going to talk about next week. Is not just about writing emails to professors, potential supervisors, but also to enlighten you guys on how to communicate with emails, because here or any other Western country that you're going to study, email is what we work with here. You send emails to your professors on a daily basis, maybe either asking questions, or in fact, their email is the major form of communication. Whether you are a GA or you are a student, it is email. So you need to learn how to communicate. I learned that soft skill. I didn't know much about how to communicate on emails when I was in Nigeria, but I learned it when I came here. And there are languages you need to use while communicating with your professors. So next week, we're going to look into that and discuss a lot of things around that. Most of you guys that also come to my DM for mentorship, I also try to, most times when I look at the emails you send to your professors, I kind of see a lot of errors based on the soft skills that I have learned so far about writing a professional email to your professor. So I think some of those things, we're going to look at them next week and talk more on that. So having said that, thank you, Obed, for thanking us. And we keep praying that God will keep us alive to conclude it. It's not, like I said, it's not easy to organize this program. Trying to fix time with speakers is not an easy thing. I know, in fact, I know what I did before I was able to pull Obinna to come here. So, so I'm very happy that he actually accepted to come, and then we have had this program successfully. There are other scholars who are going to speak in the subsequent ones. So we hope that they will be available to speak on that day, because something can come up. Here, we don't even know our next line of action. I just pray that something doesn't come up that will make us to change or to start looking for a speaker for the next one. Thank you, everyone. And then may God bless you guys, and may God help you guys in your pursuit. I pray that you, just like he said, there are testimonies coming up. This week alone, we had about 3 or 4 persons got their visa. I'm happy. I'm happy that whenever I see them get their visa, I feel like I'm the one that got the visa. So we are happy that people are getting their visas and then getting admissions and scholarships. It gives us joy. It makes us to remain on this business of mentoring people. God bless you all.
So I just want to say this before we go. So I want to wish all of you good luck in this application journey. And I also want to say, when you finally achieve your dreams of going to pursue your graduate education, please try to be happy to help people who are trying to follow in your footsteps, please. I mean, that is how we develop as a community. If only one person is rich in a community, then that community is not making progress. Even if he gives some cash transfers to other persons in the community, what makes the community develop is when many people are successful. And I hope you guys are going to kind of like help people when you guys achieve your dreams. Thank you guys and good luck.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always say. We train people to train others. When we help you, that's one thing we need from you. When we help you, try to help others. Somebody helped me to come here, and I must confess, I am happy. So that is, in fact, that is one of my motivation for helping others because people helped me. People helped me. I was following a lot of people online, learning. Even some of them even sent me some of their statement of papers that I looked at to make some corrections on my own. So as we do this, what we do is we empower you. We train trainers. We train you to train others. And then one more thing, please. If we train you and you're able to come here, don't convert it to money. If you want to convert it to money, it's your business. But don't convert it to money in our name. They do have free. We are not a business venture. It's a non-profit organization. So we are not, if although we are putting money in this, yes, we are actually putting money in this. I know what we have spent so far. I don't need to make it open to everybody, but we are actually putting our personal fund to hold this. But we are not actually looking at getting the money back from you people. No, I believe that God will have a way of blessing us. That's one thing I believe. So, and not just that God has been blessing us. So far, this year alone, I won 4 scholarships, and most of them has funding, you know. So, as God is blessing me, I will try to bless others by telling you how you can win your own scholarship. And that is why I make some of these posts to motivate you and to give you resources. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation. And I wish to see you guys again next week, Saturday. Saturday next week is the next program. I don't know the time yet. I'm going to discuss with the speaker. It is the speaker, and then, but it's going to be between 4 p.m., 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Nigerian time. It's going to be this time. So anything you're going to be doing in the next 4 Saturdays, have it at the back of your mind that between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. is this our program. Is the start time of this our program. So if we fix 4 p.m., know that, and we have made it to be a maximum of 2 hours. As you can see, we have just 2 minutes to end. So we try to time it. When we start by 12, like we started today by 12, this is our time, 12 p.m. our time. And we are ending this is 2 minutes to 2, which I know is 2 minutes to 8 in Nigerian time, and then probably 2 minutes to 7 in Ghanaian time. So try to know that this is the time. Our time of start is 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., depending on the speaker of the day. So this is how we want to plan this program, and we hope to end it by 8th of July. After then, we will send kind of a survey to everyone to fill. From there, we'll be able to know those who actually participated and those who actually gained something from what we have done. Thank you, everyone, and then may God bless you all.